Hey, what's up, everybody? Going live. I'm going to go ahead and invite Corona. Get her on here as fast as possible. That should be her.
Hi.
What is up?
How's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you doing?
Good. I just parked my car, which is perfect timing.
Awesome. Awesome. So, yesterday was International Women's Day,
Mm-hmm.
and this month is Women's History Month.
Yes.
And for me, like recently we did suicide, and I looked at what the other side of suicide was: purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But for this, I don't just want to talk about women's history. I want to talk about how it affects all of us and how some of us can rise up out of the herd and become these people that we chat about and talk about in small, medium, and large ways. So for me, as I get better and better and better, one of the things that was missing in my life for the first part of my life was being able to come out of the closet as my authentic self. Because what I was able to do is I believe we come into different worlds and we learn things from different people's worlds. So as a straight male, I learned that I was closeted in a lot of ways, that I could identify with that part of the LGBTQ plus,
Mm-hmm.
to have more of an understanding of them, but also see a lot of the things that they're doing took a lot of bravery. So I'd have much respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
Even, and I believe anybody can do this, even if they don't agree with that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So as I grow and authentic, I can see that divinity in other people, and I can inspire that divinity in other people to step out of the herd and make changes.
Yeah. For me, leaving my home and going to college was a way to step out of that norm and expose myself to a new reality and be more in line with who I really am and my purpose, my higher purpose, right? Um, so I mean, college, learning about all of these different icons, like we were talking about last time. And I wanted to focus more on Gloria Ansaldúa. She is one of the few first feminists, queer identifying women who talked about feminist theory and queer Chicana theory specifically. And she talked about creating a new world, where people who might not fit into this duality, right, male, female, but rather a third space, which is queer identity, really. It's the unknown, or a space where people can't be put into a box or check off a box. And I thought that was important for us to kind of talk about today.
And
Um,
and and, and for me, like a lot of times, like the word queer can be weird for a lot of people, but also me,
mm-hmm,
I can identify with that because it's the not normal. It's the person that stepped out of the herd for probably more along the lines of gender. But I think that goes into many parts of your life. If you take the word gay, it originated from the word happy.
yeah.
And if you look at gay males opposed to regular males, they seem a lot more happy.
Mm.
That's why a lot of, besides him not hitting on women all the time, that's part of the reason why women like having gay men as friends.
Mm-hmm.
I
A lot of
think
times they
that's a
feel
big
more
one.
comfortable, right? We feel more safe. Well, in a sense, a little bit more safe because gay men are still presented, like they still present as men on the outside. I mean, obviously you have those who are out of the closet who aren't afraid of wearing female clothes and things like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of them can get by, right? It's that privilege of still presenting as male or getting by as presenting female.
Mhm. Let's slow this down for a little while. Slow it down. Being gay doesn't make them any less male.
No, not at
They're
all.
just more aligned. They're just more in line with their feminine.
But I'm specifically talking about how females sometimes hold gay males as friends so closely because in society they can present as men, as they can present as males.
Do you think that's part of it's a side effect also, that because they pushing past something that's not normal in society, that's made them more authentic person too? That's also aligned with their feminine energy.
Yeah. Whew. Sorry, I'm coming.
Are you gonna pick a spot?
Yes. I just got to my my new home and I'm getting comfortable. It's too hot outside. Plus my phone is starting to die, so I want to like kind of find a place where I can sit down and continue this conversation because I think it's really important.
Yeah, for sure. So you're living in your house.
Yes.
Graduated high school, then went away to college. Let's call that there was a certain level of order within your family dynamic. That was started from a young age.
Absolutely.
You stepped out of that order, let's call it chaos, and you had more freedom.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, at first for me it was like, okay, I'm no longer in the place that I call home. I'm in a whole new area code, in a whole new city where nobody knows me. And I could be who I really am without people really being like, oh, look, did you see Jeanette? Without feeling judged, right? By people that I hold close and dear to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe to be a revolutionary, like what breaks us out of that? So that was a simple way that broke us out of that.
Yeah.
But it could be like Marie Dorian that I shared
Ooh,
that
tell us
video.
about.
What? I didn't hear you. That I'm gonna assume that you said tell us about Marie Dorian.
Yes.
So Marie, what was that? I was right. We're our energy is a little off right now. So um, Marie Dorian was a Native American in history, and she was married, and her and her husband were traveling. Like when we travel across the United States, there's paved roads and there's lots of things that it's a lot safer. It's not 100% safe because the cars are driving real fast, but it's a lot safer. And she was in a world that her husband was half Native American and half European, and I think she was 100% Native American. And they were involved in the fur trade and traveling across. And there was at one point that her and her husband were separated, and she was able to find out that her husband was in danger because there was going to be an attack. A Native American told her about the attack that was going to happen. And it was taking her 2 days. She couldn't tweet, she couldn't get on a phone. She had to go travel there for 2 days. And she gets all the way there, and her husband, goes along that 2 day trek with two young children. And by the time she gets to her husband, that whole area had been wiped out. Husband dies. By the time she got back to the place that she was out, that whole area was wiped out, for all the people had died and everything. And this adversity, which is a lot of times what takes us up to chaos. You went to get higher education, but there, as much as you said there was a lot of freedom there. There was a lot of judgments and other things that go along with being in any other community. But you may have not been as attached to them because it wasn't your family that had more. You got a sense of freedom, but there is a sense of new rules. So what breaks us out of that place? She went through this adversity, and it was a strong adversity, and she responded. And maybe because a lot of these social graces that are put into communities like church and marriage and a lot of other things, and if we take, when we use the illusion of hunter and gatherer, if both are hunters, more masculine energy, even though we're there could be like a lot of conflict within a relationship. And I'm looking at this adversity that will take somebody and take them to jump out of the closet. And if everything's perfect, a lot of times we don't go within and make changes. A lot of us wouldn't move from the place that we're moving until we go through a winter. And now with society, with air conditioning and heating, a lot of us can stay in the same region 365 days a year. And we could live in places that it was impossible to live year-round before. So what breaks us out of our cocoon and turns us into a butterfly? Let's call that coming out of the closet. What were you going to say?
It's that chaos. Adding that chaos in.
Because a lot of people think chaos is a bad thing.
It's perspective.
It's perspective, and it could be both good or bad.
Right.
And I believe what makes it good is putting something in between the order and the chaos, which is humility. Then it doesn't take us I believe the Harvard model, when we go through that process, it takes us 20 years to learn something. Because we was like, oh, if I get this degree, if I get this, then I can just like hide these different parts of me, and then I can get up to this point and change the world. But then you're too much part of the world, and then all of a sudden you lose your job, or something happens, and then you lose everything, and then you get to that chaos, but you haven't really built up that skin and that annoying. Humility will give us the point and say, like I was having a conversation with the guy that edits my videos, and he said something about a language barrier, and I said, I go, don't use that as an excuse anymore. I go, I'm horrible at picking up other languages. I want you to know that 100%. But I know this is the time that you're using it as an excuse, because I know that if I were to name 5 people that are understanding me more than other people that are working around me, you're like at the top, including family that I grew up in the same house. So don't let the English barrier go into me. I'm crazy to everybody.
Yeah.
Including myself. Mickey thinks I'm crazy. And Mickey's not even real, I think.
He's only as real as you perceive it to be.
Maybe. So, as we think about chaos, and I want everybody to like think about when you're watching this, her moving around is part of that chaos and embracing that chaos, and let that work for you.
One thing I wanted to say to that, Steve, because this is something that kind of changed my perspective a lot, is that change of scenery. Sometimes we need that change of scenery in order to be able to more like deal with that chaos more, right? At least in my experience, I've dealt with some pretty chaotic moments in my life, and it wasn't until I placed myself in a different change of scenery that I was able to kind of deal with that energy a lot better. Sometimes we have to do that.
And it can be proactively taking a humble breath
Mm-hmm.
and channeling into something that you want that's different. But you, especially if you have a lot of money, you can go into another scene, or a lot of money, or a lot of clout, or a lot of value. You can go into a scene and kind of control the element. And going back to my developer real quick, and then I'm gonna go into another story, is why I get frustrated with him, because I'm trying to build him up.
Mm-hmm.
He wants me to be the authority and always come to me for information, when if you look at me trying to edit a video, I have no idea like of anything about that. But that's not my role. But can I spin around content and just like think of like all my videos that I do, they're not planned out. I just have like a basic understanding, and then I fill in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I realize a lot of things that people do, worrying about the perfect mic and everything, gets in the way of them doing content and that feeling of being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you talk about change of scenery, I had a situation with a San Diego State student, 20 years old, and we were going to a thing called the slut walk, which is a lot of times in court when a woman's sexually assaulted, they kind of, oh, she was wearing this, da 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 da. So the protest, they created the word slut walk in order to kind of
This was
take that.
Amber Rose was the one who started this. So Amber Rose was the person who was dating Kanye West back in the day, and she was called a
Oh, got it,
slut. So
got it.
she used that word to. It's kind of like other words like to empower. For example, nigga, nigger, whatever.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was used derogatory, and then people that identified or ended up self-identifying, ended up changing the meaning from within, basically.
Got it. So she asked me, and trust me, this is part of my formula. It's cause and effect, which is order, and then chaos, and then organized chaos, which is humility. And so a lot of times I'm acting off of the formula without knowing it. So she told me where the protest was, and then she said, "Do I know how to get there?" And trust me, I never think about how to get to somewhere until I'm going there. And I said I knew how to get there, and I had some idea where it was, and she said, "Good." So as soon as I met with her, we get on the trolley, which is for you don't live in San Diego, it's a little train. And she is so stressed out that I didn't know how to get there, and thinking we weren't going to be able to get there, that she started to open up about being sexually assaulted.
Wow. So it meant a lot to her to be there.
Yeah, it meant a lot and I didn't even know what I was doing like half the time. I was like talking about other people, and sometimes I've had times when I'm talking about coming out of the closet as my authentic self, and it turns out that it's a good conversation for somebody. And I know I'm not 100% on this, but I trust my intuition more than the average. And a lot of times I'm just saying this story and I feel compelled to it. I'm aligning with the problem and not talking about the problem, but creating the solution. That sometimes that chaos is crazy for people, and they hate it, and they start to get attacked back. And I'm like, why are they? And then I'm like, oh, you're speaking cryptically about something that's going on with them. So, and it was like a beautiful thing, and it was so slow, and it was on the way, like right when we were at the protest, but it was over like 3 hours period. And I was like talking about somebody on the trolley. I was like, yeah, she was going through something, and because that somebody that was real, and I'm trying to remember this. This was like 6 7 years ago. I'm trying to remember, like, some guy comes on the bus and he was kind of aggressive, and then I told her, I was like, let's sit near her. And then she probably wouldn't have been open to sitting next to me or her, but because of that other chaos and that common enemy, for lack of a better word, it was able to bring us together as a group. And then me openly talking about that woman after she parted ways helped her to come out of her closet to do that. And she was involved in the sorority. She didn't come out to her parents. She didn't come out to her people in her sorority. She came out to my creepy ass that she met on a college campus. Why are you smiling when I said I was creepy?
Because that's hilarious.
You're not creepy. You're not creepy. Shut up, Mickey. Mickey's in the car. I gave him a timeout for this one. So as everybody vibing with, because if everything's good, I mean, as I said, and I don't want to necessarily use a male figure, but it's a balanced one for me. Nelson Mandela went into prison for 27 years to learn humility. And no judgment on him, because when he got out, that was a big ass a miracle and everything like that, of what he was able to do and how he was able to gauge that. But how can we channel into that humility without something that bad happening to us? And I believe that the examples of these awesome people that we're talking about are the Amber Rose that you mentioned, Dorian, Marie, yeah, and these examples, and us leveraging their experience, just like Yannick and I were talking about on the other podcast about how travel gives us that scenery change. Because anytime we go in a different community, we should have to share lies and truths. That's how a community exists. Most communities are coming together because of a
common thread.
I want to see a world that women come together for the joy of women, not because men suck. I want to see, like, I could go, and also it happens on the other side. I want to go into a place that I can go into a bathroom that people are speaking 7 different languages. And I could say, oh, these women, and they'll all laugh. It happens on both sides. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad, but it's limiting. It's not something that feeds my soul, that excites me. I mean, I don't believe that women really want, and I would say this is a problem. Most problems that men have are much worse than women. But I'm saying this specific and character flaws are mostly in men. But I don't know if women would introduce one of their friends to a really awesome guy, even if they were in a relationship. They wouldn't introduce it. It was like, okay, my boyfriend's awesome, but this guy's better. I want you to be with him, and I want you to be happy.
Do you think it's an envious thing?
I think they kind of want to hear your bad stories because it makes them feel better about their relationship.
Yikes. But you know what? I don't think that that's not far-fetched at all. People like to hear about all the bad shit that's happening in your life. It's gruesome. It's troubling as fuck. Because everybody always just wants the drama. Everybody's so fixated on what's the drama today. Like, can I just scroll through the feed and see what bullshit people are putting out there?
My aunt, she graduated from college, I think at 19.
Mm.
She's a dean of a big, close to Ivy League school. I mean, was. And I remember her saying not too long ago that and she's a minister too.
Oh, wow.
And I remember her saying not too long ago that she likes watching Jerry Springer because it makes her feel better about herself. And that wasn't a judgment on women. That was a judgment on how we were talking.
There's a saying for that.
What's that?
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but one person's pain is another person's pleasure or some shit like that. One person's misery is another person's pleasure.
Yeah. And I think that is very, very limiting like that.
Yeah, it is. We need more solution-oriented people is really the thing.
Yeah.
I think that would mean the death of a lot of different soap operas, a lot of different channels and shows. I mean, where would entertainment be without that? It would be the death of entertainment.
So I'm bothered by what social media does with the algorithm, with taking a lot of negative stuff towards us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm not watching 100% positive, but if you look at my feed based on what I'm searching for,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting quality information. So people are asking you shall receive. People are asking
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of negative stuff. Am I affected by this stuff more than I'd like to know? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there are capabilities, and it's proven scientifically wise that it'll keep you on the computer more. Negative stuff will keep you on the computer more.
Is it because we're geared to be problem solvers? Maybe, I don't know. Because I mean, if you think about it on the other side of things, some people like to see that because maybe it prepares them in their own life in the future, or maybe it's an example of what they could have done in the past.
The mind, ultimately at its best, when it's not aligned with your heart and your gut, it wants to create problems so it can solve them.
Mm.
So it's really staying at this level. It's not evolving. So that's why I think I did a weird video early on that it was called a Facebook fast. Go out and sit in nature type stuff. It was pretty entertaining and funny the way that I went it. But it's so much important. And I believe that you can channel into better content if you're in tune with nature,
Mm-hmm.
or a calling, or whatever it is, because our biases are being fulfilled based on our beliefs. So if you or I feel that all women are this way or all men are this way, even for everything I've said up until this point, if we have that feeling, it's creating our perspective and our reality. That's why I travel, moving to different locations is creating that.
Mm.
That's one of the reasons why I love Lyft, because I'm channeling into people with all different perspectives.
Yeah.
And even the way my car's set up, it gives them the freedom that they don't know really how to go to me to, like, I mean, it's like open. I mean, you can have some basics that are obvious, but also it can go in all the directions. I had this guy yesterday that everything I was saying, he thought it came from not a black perspective, but a black element.
Huh.
So, for instance, I was saying how my dad that's passed away used to have a Mickey Mouse sticker in his car. And I used to think it was such a waste that he would put a Mickey Mouse sticker in his new car. And now I have my whole car blitzed out in Mickey Mouse stickers. And I said that my dad probably wouldn't approve of my. I think that me doing Mickey is awesome, but he probably wouldn't approve. I'm sorry, 100%. Him alive wouldn't approve of my Mickey impersonation.
Oh, Steve.
And then this guy goes, he goes, I don't think Mickey's racist. And I'm like thinking, like, where did that jump to that? Because I didn't say anything in that realm, but he was identifying me like straight as a black person, which I always say stuff to blow up those islands that people have. And trust me, I make those assumptions too on stuff. And but I know that I'd say that separates me from a lot of people is I know it's not necessarily wrong to do it, but it's very limiting. Because we are so much more than that. But sometimes what do you do for work is a good place to start. So you can have an idea, and then I can tell by how somebody says it, then you can ask them what do they do for fun. And then if they're like, if they don't like that, you could find like that what's really on them, like what really defines them. Are you an artist? No, it's a trick question. Everybody's an artist. What's your art? Like affirming that you're an artist. Tell me, or I'll kill you. But don't say that. Say it with your tone. But you know, I'm not really going to do it. But you put the fear in them. That creates that chaos. And I feel it on some level. I don't really do that, but I do that. Don't I?
No doubt.
Do you know the way that Jerome started his healing? Jerome's the guy that taught me to meditate, and he's a great healer. But the way that Jerome taught his healing practice is he used to do some sort of boxing or martial arts. And what he did is he used to find a weak energy in somebody and then then weaken them with their kidneys. If there's a weakness in their kidneys, he would weaken them so he could just like, so he's like, then they couldn't even hit me. Like they couldn't even like fight because I just weakened that. It's not illegal by standards. But if you find that negative, so the reason why I'm so good at peace, because I used to get in fights. And now I know how to create peace. I was in high school and college at the time. Maybe it happened last week too, but high school and college. So I know how to like create peace at a cellular level. I've been a smartass for most of my life, so I know how to do the opposite that in situations when it's important. So, because if you took somebody that's like, and I use this example as one of my friends' dads was in prison when they were growing up. And then he got out of prison. Sorry, he was in prison when he got out of prison and he became a priest. So he became a priest so he could sneak drugs into prisons. And now he creates orphanages in a totally legit way in Africa. So he uses those pimp skills for positivity. So a lot of times these, and Nelson Mandela, even though it was because of the bad laws that he spent 27 years in prison, so he could find a way to let go because he wasn't on the outside telling people what to do or in the mix. So he had to like, no, let me pay attention to what's going on. Let me think about this. Let me prepare emotionally, physically, spiritually to do that. So how are you doing that in your own personal life? Ow, 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 ow. Get a plan and stick to it. Steer it up, little darling, steer it up. Because you're moving around too much.
No. Having interruptions on my phone. It's that feminine energy that wants to take the power.
Explain that. I can't hear you.
You still hear me?
I can hear you now. So one thing I would like to change is feminine energy wants to harness the power.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes.
But it doesn't want to take the power.
Sometimes.
It doesn't want to take the power.
You know what? Maybe it's feminine presenting energy that acts more masculine. That would probably better describe things.
I don't know about that.
It happens because
let's call it toxic femininity.
Sometimes feminine energy is miraculous. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It has the power to create. It has the power to destroy. Even if you say no, it does. But sometimes that can get out of hand. Because then when you have women who are not willing to build, who are just wanting to take, destroy, that's where we have a problem. That happens sometimes. And I think that that's something that does, it creates more chaos than not.
Yeah, that's where we get into trouble a lot. Thinking, I was like, oh, this person's part of my community. They're gonna have my best interest. And I think we got to get caught in whether somebody's as Bob would say, a goodie or a baddie. Not necessarily that they come from this tribe or they're this, where like the essence of what they're portraying, and pay attention to what they're doing. There's a self-help guy named Marshall Silva who used to just had this saying in one of his audiobooks or something that don't fall in love with somebody's potential. And I think he was talking it came to relationships, but I look at that as anything, because you can come together in business, or you can come together with a movement, and somebody has like a really good idea, has all the resources, has all the different connections, but they don't want to they don't want to necessarily manifest what we're creating in this world. And I believe chaos is one of the things that breaks people out of that. You know who was a big piece of the Me Too movement? Game changer in that? Donald Trump. When a guy that said all the things that he said became the president, people that, oh, we don't have it that bad, I can't march, I got to take the children to soccer, said, no, I'm going to find a way. And that's when you get from having 2,000 people out there to having 1 million people out there. I'm not saying he did it on purpose, because that's what I said from the beginning. Is it's sad that we have to have these people. That's why the stuff going on in the Ukraine. The thing that's different with this for me is that people care. Like, lots of people care. Wars have been going on for a long fucking period of time. When I was born, Vietnam was on, and we just got to Afghanistan, which is the same fucking war. I've been on this planet for 50 fucking 2 years. Same fucking war when I started here, same fucking war ending. And it's when I say same thing, I'm talking about the same energy. Like, lots of time there and nothing came of it.
Continues to be the same.
So the thing but what's different is the people. We're becoming, and we're not out of the woodworks. But people are caring and getting out of the egos and speaking up and watching videos and looking at stuff that they don't necessarily want to see. And we're forcing to put this stuff in front of us.
Yeah.
Because usually when shit like this happens, I really don't pay attention much. Because it's like, oh, I'm not needed. If people are paying attention to this shit and everything like that, what aren't they paying attention to? Let that be my focus.
Yeah, that's heavy energy.
Yeah. That's what, and I'm even like that with people like me. Like, I mean, people that are my critics and then think that I'm a scary person. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, they're actually caring about the students for the first time I've seen it. Like, they've got it wrong that they think I'm the bad element, but at least they're concerned and caring, because I didn't think that was possible a couple months ago, a couple years ago. And also that adversity pushed me to become a better person, because I was spending energy saying, no, I'm not that fucking person. And I wasn't like, would they say what I did and make the connection? It wasn't important. It was what happened inside of me that was manifested in the life to help to do more good for more people, for me to become more selfless, because I needed that chaos, because I'm not enlightened. I needed that chaos to help me learn humility and be able to create a formula to be able to get back to that humility faster with less effort.
Out the closet.
So early on in Donald Trump's thing, I was like, yeah, I like the only difference between Donald Trump and Biden is for me is that we were more engaged with Trump, and also a lot of that can't be turned off, but we're not. I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's go towards all our politicians like we're going towards Trump. But more so, let's point at ourselves. Like, it's like the saying is, like, if you're pointing at somebody, you got three fingers pointing at yourself. First of all, because you have more control of that. Yeah. I have more control of that. I challenge people to be the most sovereign individual in their lives. We can spend a lot of energy thinking about who's going to be elected in the next 4 years, or you can harness that voting potential and that voting energy to vote for the people that you come across on an everyday basis. Yeah. And I get shit on all the time. I'm always helping people that I end up getting shit on.
That happens often.
But shit is manure. So I'm also planting orchards. I've decided not to give up on doing that. Do I set boundaries and do I pick my spots? 100%.
You have to.
And also, I don't feel like I have to help anybody.
No ties. Makes it easier to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good end. Unless you have something else to add.
Nope, I think it's a good spot.
Yeah. You took I do that.
Peace and love.
Thank you very much. Let's get out.